That down? Let's get things started off here, shall we? We're going to start with this. Again, for a guy who doesn't like K-pop Demon Hunter all that much, I do talk about it a lot because it's what is happening. The phenomena of it is remarkable. And even though I don't like the movie all that much, I love the music. Absolutely love the music. And it has been a smash runaway success. It quickly became the #1 animated streaming thing on Netflix of all time. And guess what? Pretty soon it's going to pass Red Notice. That's the name of it, right? The Rock and Ryan Reynolds. The really bad Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds movie, Red Notice. The really bad one, which is their #1 streamed film of all time. Yeah, K-pop Demon Hunter's going to pass it. And some of you might remember that a few weeks ago, Rob and I said on this show, you know what they really should do? What they should really do is book some theatrical engagements for it and have special sing-along screenings. Man, we guaranteed those would sell out. Well, a week later, after we said that on this show, lo and behold, they announced they're going to do some sing-along screenings. And they're going to happen between August 22nd and August 24th. 1,700 screens. So it's like almost still a week away.
And that's not an insubstantial release.
No, that's almost wide release numbers. That's much bigger than limited release. They have already, according to the Hollywood Reporter, they have already sold out over 1,000 screens. Days before the movie, they drop it, over 1,000 of those 1,700 screens are completely sold out already. And for a show you can watch on Netflix. For something you can watch on Netflix, people want to go do the sing-along. And of the 700 screens that aren't sold out, they're nearing selling out. Now, look, I am not naive enough to say that, oh, now, see, Netflix, put out any of your films, and they're going to sell out 1,000 screens. Obviously not. But the principle is sound. Hey, Netflix, look, you put these things out in theaters first. You're going to make money that right now for you doesn't exist. And then when you bring it over to streaming, it's going to have an even bigger launch because it had a theatrical release. That's not an opinion, guys. That has mathematically and statistically been proven out over and over and over and over and over again. It's not a question anymore. It's a statement of fact. Again, not to say that if they put K-pop Demon Hunter in theaters first, that it would have been a $1 billion film. I'm not saying that at all. But it would have made money that doesn't exist for Netflix. And then the money that does exist for Netflix, it would have still been there, only more so. Listen, you can't have a case study like this, Rob. It seems to me that you can't have a case study like this and not go, what else should we be slipping into theaters? Either pre-streaming or even post-debuting it. Now, with something like K-pop Demon Hunters, you've got a built-in gimmick where you can release it as a sing-along thing and join thousands of other fans and sing along. Most movies won't have that kind of an element unless you want to put out an action film and have a screen that's called a punch-along, where you hit people when the heroes hit people on screen. That'd be kind of interesting. Actually, I go sit in the back and watch that. That could be more fun than the movies.
That's our show. That's our topic later.
Yeah, that's later. That's a little bit later. Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's exactly our topic later.
AMC's experimenting with something new.
So AMC's just experimenting. It's their own Hunger Games social experiment. That being said, guys, we want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's video, PrizePicks. What a great time to be a sports fan. Basketball playoffs are on. Hockey playoffs are on. It is the perfect time to jump into the action with PrizePicks, the easiest and most fun way to turn your sports knowledge into real winnings. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made really simple. Just pick more or less on a few player projections, like points, assists, goals, and you can win up to 2,000 times your money. For example, this week, I've got Jalen Brunson for more than 24.5 points, or Jason Tatum for more than 6.5 rebounds. I love how fast and easy it is to lock in a lineup in just under a minute. Plus, they've got a couple of weekly features, like, for example, Flex Friday. If your lineup doesn't win, you get your net losses back in promo funds. And every Tuesday, check out Taco Tuesday for discounted player projections up to 25% off. So download the app today and use the code Campea to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Campea to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, Run your game. Rob, again, the pop culture phenomenon that is this K-pop Demon Hunter continues to show. And what do you think is going to be the takeaway lesson? Let's say you're an executive at Netflix and you're seeing these screenings like selling out. What are the lessons you take away? What are the things you think you got to be cautious about overreacting to? How do you see this?
Well, first of all, what I love about this is, so much of our pop culture now, whether it's Marvel, whether Jurassic Park, Star Wars, belongs to a different era. And we're asking our youth to accept all of this old pop culture. We expect them to be the new audience for it all. And I think first and foremost, what I love about K-pop Demon Hunters and One Piece and all of these Asian influence things, they belong to this generation. People are going to grow up and they're going to think in 20 years. Remember when K-pop Demon Hunters came out? We went and saw the sing-along at the AMC and we sang our hearts out or whatever. This is theirs. And this is new. We're always asking, like, what's Hollywood going to remake in 20 years? What's going to be? Now, I'm not saying they're going to remake this because this is just the beginning of we're going to get an onslaught of K-pop Demon Hunters movies. I'm sure there'll be a prequel series. The Andor of K-pop Demon Hunters will be on in 20 years or whatever.
Yeah, the story about Rumi's mom or whatever. And again, we're not saying here when they do sequels they're going to mimic the same success as the first one. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. We're not saying it's not.
No, but I just think this is an event of today, which I think is really exciting. I think it's really cool, whether you like K-pop Demon Hunters, whether it's for you or not, it belongs to this generation, which I think is great because it shows that media and what Hollywood, because this was made by Sony, what there is still a lot of relevant material, new stuff that can be created with the right creators in place and people like Netflix spending $100 million to make this. There are successes and wins to be had. So that I think is inherently optimistic for the business, which I think is great. That said, I love that they're doing this. I think that Netflix also is giving Guillermo del Toro's
which we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Yeah. And they also have the guy who made Conclave, his new movie with Colin Farrell about the gambler in Macau is also getting a theatrical release before it goes
Ballad
to
of a Small Player.
Ballad of a Small Player, which the trailer just dropped and it looks fantastic. So I think Netflix might be at least rethinking the fact that, hey, we understand these movies are made by you. They're going to your streaming service. They're going to live there forever. But there is money to be made for you. And there's money to be made that if you do well theatrically, that means other creators are going to come to Netflix and go, look, like the David Finchers of the world, if you're going to make the Cliff Booth movie, which they are, that Tarantino wrote, we'll get to see that in a theater before we have to watch it. Because how can you make, let's see all that. So I think that this is a huge... it's very exciting in terms of the future of what Netflix streaming movies can do. And if philosophically you have somebody like that trailer for Frankenstein looks amazing.
Yeah.
And I want to see that visual splendor that Guillermo del Toro delivers on a big screen.
Yeah.
I don't want to, even movies I don't love of Guillermo del Toro's like Crimson Peak are amazing to look at on a big screen. By the way, I did buy the 4K special edition of that, even though I didn't like it very much. Of course you did. But it looks incredible. So I think what Netflix is doing with this is huge. And I think the fact that they're having success, it's not going to work for everything, obviously.
No, at least not on the same scale.
No, but they've got it's set a tone. And I'll tell you something. Part of this is because of our modern era, social media. You think most people knew this was even happening? It's because of our show, John. But I think that this is a social media event the same way Barbenheimer was. You've got all these people that have already seen this. They've become big fans. They're tweeting to their friends. They're going on TikTok going, hey, you're going to go to the sing-along? How many online, are we going to get chicken jockey style? I don't know. We're going to get that. But I'll guarantee you there's going to be a lot of videos of people standing and singing and dancing in those theaters 100%. To K-pop Demon Hunters, and it's going to become a thing.
100%. Here's an interesting thing to bring up, though. A friend of mine was asking me, we were talking about impact that movies make. We often hear about like movies on, streaming don't make impact. And I think that's an oversimplification, but there is a core truth to it, which is, I was thinking about this the other day. You're looking at the popularity of K-pop Demon Hunter and all that kind of stuff. When I look back over the past number of years and movies that have come out, a lot of us are still talking about a lot of them. Like we still talk about Inception. People still talk about Oppenheimer. People are talking about Barbie. People are talking about, all these films. When's the last time somebody wrote in and asked about The Irishman? When's the last time anybody wrote in or any conversation came up about currently the #1 streamed movie all time original for Netflix, Red Notice? When's the last time anybody asked about that?
Never.
The theatrical element to it, look, it may be unfair, but it's a truism nonetheless. Movies that go straight to streaming, they can become momentary big hits, but they do not make any permanent impact on the culture or on anything like that the way theatrical movies do, at least not yet. It's going to be interesting to see what something like K-pop does, because you're talking about the legacy of it as we move forward down the line. I honestly don't know if it'll have any legacy, but maybe even a brief theatrical stint can create more of an impact and create a bigger pop cultural footprint than it would have than if it was just sitting on Netflix. Because so far, nothing that has just lived on Netflix or on streaming in the movie verse has really had that kind of an impact.
Well, movies, like you always say, are cultural experiential events. And the things like the movies that we saw that in our youth that we remembered, whether it was Star Wars, whether it was Lord of the Rings. I mean, think about the excitement leading up to Return of the King. The world was excited. It was everywhere. People couldn't, and it's based on a book where everyone knew the end. But it was so well realized and so many people fell in love with it. That quote I made, Lord of the Rings is the #1 trilogy, is from that song that they did for the Stephen Colbert Show where you had Merry and Pippin. Yeah. And you
Colbert is
because he's a fanatic. But the thing is, those movies still have resonance. Like the Harry Potter theme, you can hear the Shire theme in your head right now.
Yeah.
And what I found so interesting is our youth, the younger people who are driving culture on TikTok and on social media, haven't had movies that they're making cultural events in that ecosystem. Marvel movies kind of did, but K-pop Demon Hunters is an example of that. It's become a social media phenom where you've had a movie fused with social media, which doesn't happen a lot because most people just don't care. But when you have something like this that becomes fused with that part of culture, I think we're going to see more and more of that as people suddenly come back to movies. People are coming back to film. They kind of went away for a while, but now I think that there's a cultural shift back to movies because there's movies that people dig, starting with Top Gun Maverick.
The final question I'm going to have as we move on here, because we've sat on this, we've talked about this longer than I planned, but so now will K-pop Demon Hunter actually have sustained impact, or is it going to come and go like the latest Labubu? Like that, and that's what we're going to see, because these things come and go so fast.
I think it edges towards sustained only because they're talking about sequels and live action remakes.
But will they have any kind of impact as
I think the
original did?
musical component for this will allow it to continue on.
That is the different element to this one, right? Because they are topping the charts. Anyway, guys, we've talked about this long enough. Question is for you. What do you think about this? This little limited ready completely sold out over 1,000 theaters. And it's probably going to sell out all of them. I don't know what kind of lesson or, takeaway is there from this. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.